Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the Jesse Lee Falls podcast. I've been gone for just a little over a month. Haven't put anything out. Uh, Kind of been busy with the holidays and all that good stuff. Um, I wanted to do a podcast today because we're coming up on the new year, and lo and behold, we're always talking about the micro music business on this podcast, and the micro music business showed up. I got a $20 check from CD Baby for my digital royalties. So, I know that's kind of a goofy thing, but not really, because if I can make, $20, then hopefully maybe I can turn this into $200. Um, that's the yeah. So there it is. Boom. So, why am I showing this to you? Well, because I want you guys to go out there and get your $20 CD Baby checks, and just want to make sure that you guys are staying on top of your little micro royalties, because that's how we get to that macro side. We got to start small. So, anyways, New Year's is coming up, and I'm going to be doing a podcast with one of my band members, who I haven't done a podcast with. I haven't done a podcast with any of my band members yet. Still very new, but I'm going to have Erin Tanski on with me, and we're going to be talking about some New Year's resolutions, some things that happened, some ups and downs, and good things and bad things that happened in the last year, 2024, and where we're heading into 2025. And we want to take you guys along for that journey, and talk about some of the projects that we're in the middle of. And I wore something nice to this podcast for another reason. It's basically in honor of Jordan Peterson, who we're going to talk about on the next podcast as well. You're definitely going to want to stick around for that. If you guys don't know who Jordan Peterson is, you've probably noticed I've mentioned him in some of my previous podcasts. Well, we're going to dive into some stuff today, and so I dressed appropriately in out of respect for Jordan Peterson, and we're aiming up, and we're going to talk about some of the new things that we're going to be doing with the podcast. This might be my last podcast for about probably a few weeks at least, because we're upgrading, and we're going to be doing some new things that we're going to be trying out, and pretty excited about all that stuff, because we're just trying to grow. But remember, we're always growing on the micro level, so that way we don't do any kind of overreaching. Not to get like too biblical or anything, but the story that comes to mind is like, don't be try to be the Tower of Babel this year. Don't try to build the Tower of Babel this year. Like, the micro processes are the best processes, I think, because they it's a way to solidify and to concretize your ideas. Because if you move in slow increments, the chances of your ideas sticking are probably a lot better than if you have some grandiose plan, but there's really no way to get from point A to point B, because the plan is just too big. It's too grandiose. You're overreaching, and so don't treat your business like the Tower of Babel. Be grateful for the micro processes, because that's the journey. You don't just get from point A to point B and skip the journey. That's the journey is the reward. The reward itself, or the reaching the goal, isn't really the reward itself. And we're going to get more into that on the next one. So stick around, and glad you guys are here with us today, and we should be getting into some pretty nitty gritty stuff. So stick around. It should get good. Cheers.
Okay.
All right. Well, Happy New Year's, everybody. I got Erin Tanski with me.
Happy New Year's.
Erin sings with me in the band, and she also plays keyboards. And this is the first time I've had any of my band members on the podcast. So, how's it going?
Actually pretty good. We're just finishing up on our new song that we're in the process of recording and editing, and
Yeah.
it's been a lot of fun. I love being in the studio.
Yeah, we're going to talk about all that stuff. So we should do like a recap of the last year. Like, how is it?
Oh gosh.
You know, what I mean, what what do they call that? A debriefing, right? So
a debriefing of the last
we've
year.
we've had a lot of stuff going on. I think the main thing was in March when we released our new album, Jesse Lee Falls Band, Funky Kids at Play.
Yeah.
Look it up.
Yep.
And we've been touring that a little bit. We've been going, I think, as far as 400 miles away from where we live.
Yeah, staying in our area,
Staying in our state.
Keeping it in the great Northwest.
Yeah. Yeah. Trying to put our money where our mouths are and trying to continue on the path of the micro music business, because we don't want to expand too big. I was just talking about the Tower of Babel and how that story is it's a really good signifier of going too big too soon, putting yourself at the top, have it always helps to have something that's above you, something that's maybe, whether it's not transcendent, some higher ideal that's above you, because otherwise you become a tyrant to others and yourself. And so speaking of tyranny, how has my tyranny been this past year, as far as being a band leader and some of the maybe ups and downs?
Well, there definitely has been some ups and downs. I understand, a lot of the things you go through, just being the only woman in the band, things that I have to go through that people don't even think about. But, gosh, the tyranny that well, first of all,
I'm
lost,
picking on myself a bit here,
I know,
because I'm the band leader. It's got my name on it, and I know that can look like absolute. It looks like maybe from outsiders that I'm a bit of a tyrant or an egomaniac.
Well, there's been a lot of chaos
narcissist.
Because right as we finished our album, as you know, we lost our bass player, Kaylin Ulig.
And can you grab that picture? It's right behind you.
Oh yeah, just a second.
You got a picture.
This one?
Yeah. Do a shout out to our buddy. That's Kaylin. And we lost Kaylin two Octobers ago.
There's a nice shot of Kaylin
Yeah, thanks.
That's a drawing that somebody did. It's
nice. Nicole Black did that.
But we lost our bass player, so he is basically irreplaceable, and so we've gone through 2 or 3 bass players, and we have some great guys playing with us, but it's been really difficult because Jesse and Kaylin been playing together for 25 years, and they had a sound, and so I've been singing with Jesse for 10 years, and we have a sound. And so I understand how hard it is when you find your niche. Is that how you say that word?
Well, you find your people. Yeah,
you find your people and
your niche. Yeah.
And being in the music industry, it's always hard to keep band members together anyway, just because life's happening. Everybody's being torn this way and that.
And, I'm glad that you brought Kaylin up, because Kaylin's a great example of somebody I've been, I was friends with him for 25 years, and maybe 20, almost 27. but the point is that him and I didn't have always the most copacetic relationship. We really butted heads, and that's why I was kind of picking on myself a little bit, asking you, like, have you noticed any tyrannical um well, I kind of putting myself on the chopping block here. It's kind of like, what's it like working for me?
It's in my case, it's really difficult because as housemates, and we are not, together. We're not a couple.
But we're business partners.
We're business partners in so many different ways.
And we can name some of those ways. Like, for example, we are roommates, and this is your house.
Mm-hmm.
But we also you're the manager of the trailer park here,
yeah.
and I help you co-manage.
Uh-huh.
I am also a jack of all trades, and I
Yeah.
do roofing and flooring, and am an entrepreneur myself. You also do hair, and you do that from here.
I've been a hairdresser forever.
And then we have music, and so we're in, four almost 5 different ventures together in the same time.
Yeah, our world is definitely
We run
chaos.
We run like 4 businesses out of our house.
Yeah, yeah, and it's all to keep from, nobody wants to go to work 9 to 5. I
can't.
I mean, sorry for y'all that have to do that, but
yeah. Well, it's like artists tend to be low in conscientiousness, which is something that Jordan Peterson has really enlightened me to. By the way,
as entrepreneurs, we were attracted in that sense, business minded, because I've been self-employed for 40 years, and you've been pretty much self-employed since you got out of the Coast Guard.
Yeah, I mean, I went back to roofing for my old company, the company that taught me how to roof. Actually, I went back and roofed with him for, I don't know, a year or something. I can't quite remember, but it was always off and on. I tend to be low in conscientiousness when it comes to, like, I don't want to help other people with their businesses. Like, I'm not interested in helping people with their business. I have business ideas of my own that I have to go do, and it's like, and so unfortunately, and I've said this before, I'm a bad employee, but it's like I'm a creative person, and there's a lot of things that Jordan Peterson has enlightened me about, just about the artistic personality traits and the creative personality traits and the personality traits in general. And one thing I wanted to ask you is, because we do live together, and you see that I watch a lot of Jordan Peterson YouTube videos, and has that been something that you've seen as a positive thing, or has that become a negative? Or are you indifferent, or is it neutral? But have you seen a positive effect in me?
I'm going to say it's a little bit of both. I've really noticed the positive effect with you because since Jordan Peterson is a philosopher and you've delved into philosophy for years, I really feel that I could see you guys sitting in a room talking to each other about stuff. And
like two or 3 days would go
yeah,
by.
I was gonna say it would be like so boring for me,
but
it
would be like one of those Sermon on the Mount things where like, we're in there just talking to each other for 3 days, and then we realize we're starving to death. Like,
I'm dehydrated,
and we have no loaves and fishes.
I think it's been a good positive thing. I like what Jordan Peterson has to say, especially for men. Seems like men are his major, probably viewing people. Men
who are lost in life and really just have no direction, but aiming to a goal, having an aim and a goal, and which this kind of brings me around to what we're doing. We're in the middle of a project right now. We're not going to release it till next year, but I've been extremely moved by Jordan Peterson and his philosophy and his words and the way that he's been able to, even explain Old Testament stories and almost reinstituting new meaning somehow. Not new meaning, but just explaining things on a level that I can definitely grasp, because he talks about Jung, and he talks about the creative mind, and he talks about the personality traits, and it's like, oh,
well, hearing a philosopher describe the biblical, the books of the Bible and stuff has been very interesting. That I must say, I like listening to that.
mm-hmm.
I don't do organized religion anymore. I grew up in the Methodist Church, but
Right.
Things have taken me, out of church. But I still, have a strong belief in faith and everything. And I really like the way Jordan's philosophical view of the Bible was to listen to.
Well, and I like the philosophy of just all of his entrepreneurial business philosophies. It's like it just matches right up with how I do try to run things, and I know that if you ask around our town and our area, is Jesse easy to work with? That's
the answer.
But
Jesse's fun to work with. I love doing Jesse's music.
And I think that's what's odd about working with me, is that I'm probably one of the funnest people that you'll work with and work for, but am I the easiest to work with? I would say probably not, because as far as being open, I'm very open to ideas, but I tend to not be very open to. It's like I'm not just going to take in ideas for the sake of taking. I'm
just
very
because
biased.
It's mentioned doesn't mean
I'm
you're
biased,
do it.
but I try to use discernment, which really just comes off judgmental. Like, and people just feel like, oh, he doesn't want to use my idea. And it's like, but you've written some songs with me, and it's like, you've gotten your 2 cents in there. You've squeaked it in there.
Yeah,
But it is hard to get ideas through.
Being music partners, which we are, but you are the main major songwriter, lyrics writer, and of course you're the lead guitar player, so you take center stage on everything. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it's because I have a vision, and it's hard for me to it's hard for me to detour from my vision, to the point where it's like I have a hard time even listening to the other band members at all, because I do tend to kind of look at the other band members as more like employees, not songwriting cohorts.
Well, since we do original music from your original music, when I came in this band 10 years ago, I was in and out of the band for the first probably 3 years because of differences of opinions, we'll say, right. Either with you or one of the other band members. But it's so different being in a band doing original music. I was in a band for 12 years, Rose City Rockers, shout out, in Portland, Oregon. And
yeah, so Rose City Rockers.
So with the Rose City Rockers, we were doing everything from Patsy Cline to Led Zeppelin. I was having a great time singing frontman with 2 other people, and sharing off, doing basically everything that was popular on the radio. It's kind of fun now because we have these bands that are just doing Heart, or just doing Led Zeppelin, or just doing Pat Benatar, and well, we did it all. Mm-hmm. But I miss a lot of that just because it was fun with the crowd interaction when you play their favorite song. But being in Jesse's band taught me, well, like I said, I can do from Patsy Cline to Led Zeppelin. I found out what Erin sounds like.
Yeah, because that's the thing that I kind of force it on my players that you have to have your own voice.
Yeah, it was great finding me.
It doesn't. Yeah, it's like it doesn't work in my band if you're trying to be somebody else, you know. And I've had that happen with like bass players, and I won't mention names, but we had one bass player that he tried playing with us like a couple times, and he was really very disagreeable, and he would do things that were so over the top, trying to be a showman, show off, and like, you know, having a wireless system and then walking out in the crowd and mobbing the crowd with a bass solo. But he would get so far away from the stage that the
feedback.
No, it wasn't the feedback. It was the latency.
Oh, is that like an echo?
From the signal? No, it's a delay. It's a delay because he's so far from his receiver that there's a delay, and
right.
So
now
he
I remember.
He was losing time with the drummer, and he was losing time with the band because, and it's like. Yeah, don't try to be some kind of crazy show off. Like, what the hell is that, man? And so, anyways, that guy just, you know, we tried him a couple times, and it's like, yeah, we're just not.
It's. I mean, you know, you
and
kind of have
he was a good player, and he was funky, but his attitude was all wrong.
Yeah, I must say I have learned by doing Jesse's music that one of the main compliments I get in the band after a show is how nice our voices blend together. Well, as a musician, you really need to listen to what's coming out of the speakers, you know, and and the monitors. And sometimes I think that the people that aren't singing forget to listen to the singers and make sure that they are heard, number one. And number two, if you're going to be a showman, you know, work it out with the whole band ahead of time.
Yeah, well, that's
to make it part of the show.
In a way, that's actually what we do. What we tend to do is
don't go rogue.
We give people all the rope they need to hang themselves, but they'll only do it once. They'll just never get the gig with us again, because that's really how we kind of weed the narcissists out. You know, if we have anybody that tries to grandiose or grandstand, you know, anybody who's willing to try to grandstand me. And I'm the leader. I'm not just the leader of the band and the songwriter, but I'm the guy that's paying you at the end of the night. You know, it's like I can see why Prince was known for slapping some of his players. It's like you spoke out of turn. You know? It's like
didn't Prince play all the instruments on his albums?
Yeah, exactly. Which leads me to the next thing. Like, you know, Jordan Peterson has really opened me up to about narcissism and just tyranny and all that good fun stuff. You know, all the
makes you feel like you're looking in the mirror.
All the malevolent evil that, you know, resides within a human being. Mm-hmm. And it's like I've been trying to be a band leader for a couple decades, man. It's like I've never been a tyrant. Like, yeah, right. You know, so it really makes me want to be a better person, for one. You know, I want to be a better father. I want to be a better, you know, even I want to be a better ex-husband. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be a bitter ex-husband. I want to be a better ex-husband. You know, what does that mean? It's just like, are you going to go around and creating more hell for yourself? That was one thing that, you know, Peterson really, you know, opened that up for me, which is no matter how bad life is, you can always make it worse. Hell is bottomless, you know? And the whole Dante's Inferno thing, that was really that was a big eye opener, because I've done that, and I think you and I were both at points in our lives when we met that you were experiencing your own downward hell.
Yeah. Yep.
I'd been in the process of my downward hell for like a couple of years. I think I was a couple of years ahead of you, you know, and then you were kind of just recent to it, but I was like, oh, hey, we should team up because I know this route. Like, I've been down here for a couple of years. Like, here, I'll show you around.
Yep. I was married, still going through my divorce just starting, and I of course, went to find my music. I had to get back to the music.
Yeah, and the music brought us together, and then from that, it was like, well, me and Jeff Daughter, who was actually just on one of my last podcasts. He had an empty nest. I was couch surfing, and him and I used to do acoustic harmonica sets, just small places. And we just looked at each other and said, hey, I'm like, you let me crash on the couch, man. And I'm like, you're not doing anything. We'll go and get some acoustic gigs. We started landing acoustic gigs right away. And at the Goebel Tavern, that's where we met you. And after that, it was kind of like I really needed some goals, and music has always just been the goal. It's always been the goal that's made sense. And then I booked that gig for us in Montana and Washington, and like we didn't even know this woman, and
I'm like, can I drive? Can I go?
Well, I mean, Jeff and I are sitting there talking about it, and I'm like, hey, you want to go play Montana? And Jeff was like, yeah, sure. He's like, what are we going to drive? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, oh man, he's like, it would cost a lot to drive in that truck. He had a Chevy truck. And I was like, yeah, that's probably not going to work. And then, I don't know. I think I just thought of it, and I was like, hey, why don't you call that lady Erin, man? She doesn't have anything going on, and she's got that minivan. I bet she would like. I'm like, I'll tell you what, we could just use it as a way to initiate her in the band, because if she's down, like, this chick could be like, hey man, this chick could be like way more down than we realize.
It was such an adventure.
And
we had to get permission from my kids first.
Yeah. And she was down, and so it was like, well, there it was. It's like, I think she's part of the band. So that's really a very cool thing how that happened. And then at the same time, her and I were both basically floating, and I knew about this place here, and I told her about it, and we teamed up. She put a bunch of money down on it, got it. I said, if you get it, I'll move in with you, and I'll make sure that the bills are paid, and we'll team up, and we'll basically do what we said we were going to do. We'll focus on the music business, but that started turning into more businesses, because I also roof. I do a lot of different kinds of construction, drywall, windows. I mean, I do a lot of different kinds of construction. So,
but my favorite part of it was, we got into the studio. He brought me into the studio for the first time, and I have never wanted to leave since.
She never had studio experience. That's and I think that's a complacency that happens with a lot of musicians. If you guys are out there just doing cover band stuff, it's like doing studio work is not a priority to you, and to me that's really sad. And there's a firsthand example of somebody who did nothing but cover bands, and
I did it 12 years.
There was never even a sign of getting into the studio. And if you really want to find out who you are as a musician, you got to get in the studio. You got to find out what is your voice, and that's because it's a cool process. So I want to kind of jump back over to the Jordan Peterson thing, because I dress nice. I've been very inspired by the guy. It's so much so that I wrote a song, and you helped me write the song.
We wrote a song.
Okay. See, I still do it. I can't help it. I can't help myself.
Speaking of narcissist.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and to get back around to the whole narcissism thing, it's like trying to keep my narcissism at bay, and trying to make good decisions for the band, for everybody, really trying to keep everybody in mind, but at the same time, um, firsthand that we don't really have like solidified players, permanent solidified players. We kind of have sidemen that when they're available, we can utilize them. But that's kind of the way of the world now. That bands don't act like bands. Bands are just a conglomerate of individuals. There's really no band, and a lot of the frustration that I tend to have is the fact that I'm always dancing around other people's schedules, and that can be really annoying. It's just annoying to me, and so if I get too annoyed, I will say tyrannical things, and so I have to call myself out on my own narcissism, and that's something that I think JP has just been like, I mean, he's been exemplary for me, and to remind me as a man that, hey, if you're getting bitter or resentful, it's because you're either like, okay, you're either legitimately getting bullied or you really are just immature. You're freaking immature. The problem is that musicians, we tend to be immature. We tend to be the types of people that run away from responsibility. We tend to be the people that run away from a full-time job because we're low in conscientiousness, and so there's so much to it that makes sense. And it's like, I want to make sure that, I'm keeping all of those dark triad characteristics at bay out of myself, because you can get resentful, because if there's been times where I think, oh, I think that whatever musician it is, I think they're trying to walk on me. and then if I start thinking about it, and then I start thinking about all the times like, oh, they are walking on me, and then the monster comes out, and the monster doesn't attract players, I noticed. Like, not only do I end up losing a player in my band, I tend to lose the friendship all at the same time. And so just trying to keep that, my narcissistic monster, like, there's a time and a place where you can be justifiably angry, okay, but if I'm kind of going from 0 to 100 because I've let somebody get away with stuff, and then I'm like, bah! It's like, well, that doesn't quite.
Yeah, the volcanic explosions aren't good.
that doesn't quite help things, It's like, I don't get anywhere, and there's been several players that have been on that side of me, and that's something that's always, it's hard to rebuild those relationships, but most of the time, to be honest with you, I have a hard time wanting to even rebuild any of those relationships, because it's like, hey, look, I just found out that you're bad to be in business with, and how have you dealt with being in business with me, but also being on the artistic side of things with me? Because my business mind, because I think that it is probably very awkward for people to work with me, because I have that duality of me that, like, yeah, you're going to have a lot of fun and a lot of freedom, but you're not going to have a lot of say. Like, you don't, like, there's freedom in a lot of different ways. Like, I don't nitpick you too bad if you hit a bad note. Okay, like I'm not James Brown. I'm not like docking people's pay and things like that for hitting bad notes. But if you're gonna be in my band, like, ultimately, are you gonna have a lot of say in the songwriting? And so there is like this. It's like I give players as much leeway as to have fun and to have a good time, to make sure that it's fun.
Right.
But creative freedom, it's not quite there.
Creative freedom, I think it's kind of up to the player. I was here watching you listening to you play the guitar, listening to you come up with riffs, listening to you come up with lyrics. Sorry, I got to turn my phone down. But uh, I think I would listen to things, and then I would come up with some ideas because I was listening to what you were doing. And so then you allowed me to be involved with the creative process because I was like, oh, what if you do this or hey, that sounds good, da da da. So I think I think if more players wanted to be part of the creative process,
they would be willing to go through the initiation process that I'm maybe implicitly putting out there. Maybe I'm not very good about explicitly telling people, hey, if you want to have a say in this band at all, you're gonna have to stick around for a few years because you've been playing with me for 10 years, and I've just recently, I would say like within the past 4 years, I've been more open to your ideas.
Well, we were quarantined.
Yeah.
So you didn't have step outside and go out in the woods. There was nothing else to do during quarantine, and so we went outside as much as possible. And
well, to get back to why am I talking about narcissism and tyranny, and but it all has to do with I want to make sure that I'm putting myself in check as a band leader because I know that I can slip into these ideas of the band players, the band members tend to act like they're expendable. I'm going to treat them like they're expendable, and that's not a good attitude to take on. So they're
either acting expendable or like hired gun.
Yeah, and which is basically just another word for expendable.
Oh.
Okay. A hired gun to me, I guess, would mean that there's some professionalism behind it. Mm-hmm. When they act expendable, then there's no professionalism behind it. So it's like, well, are they really a hired gun? Because it's like, are you really hiring the best, or did you just, hire the person that's just the best that's around you because that was easy, and so and and available, and but it's like maybe you just hired the wrong person, and that happens a lot. That happens a lot through this process. So for me, it's like trying to put myself in check for the New Year's because I want to, I guess as far as a cheesy New Year's resolution, it's like be in competition with yourself. Another Jordan Peterson axiom. Basically, just be in competition with yourself and try to outdo yourself and try to make sure that you're trying to be a little bit better, every day. And I want to put my money where my mouth is. So it's like, I want the podcast, to do better. I want I want us to upgrade on the podcast, like we're starting off on the very micro level here with it, which is just, we're working with the equipment we have. I want to get another camera, start, just doing better production for the whole thing and getting some really great guests and delving into, just really the ins and outs of the music business, but at the same time branching out because, I have an affinity for comedy and we're starting to do, comedy skits and actually recording our comedy skits and filming our comedy skits. And that's something that's kind of always been on the back burner for me. It's been on the back burner for like decades, but
well, we definitely like to stay on the goofier side of things. It keeps things lighthearted.
Right. And I think that's like another contrary thing about working with me is like we do a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah.
The problem is that I just have a hard time sharing the vision with other people, especially if I don't know you very well. It's like there is an initiation process, I think, that I do put people through. I think it's implicit. I should be more explicit and let people know, like, hey, if you actually stuck around and like showed me, like, hey, you're gonna actually treat this band as a priority for like 2 or 3 years, like I would probably start opening up a little bit and start listening to you more. And you're somebody who's been through it and has experienced that.
Oh yeah.
What do you see for the next year?
Well, we've been working on the new song, getting it recorded, so I'm really looking forward to releasing it.
Which, by the way, the reason why we're bringing that up again is because, which, thank you. The song that we are putting out is it's basically a personal thank you to Jordan Peterson. Uh, we wanted to basically pay homage to JP
I
because
like a lot of what he has to say.
as a creative person, he's helped me understand myself a lot better, and also helping me understand malevolence and how to integrate the shadow, and reiterating all the Carl Jung stuff and the Taoist stuff and the Buddhist stuff and the Christianity stuff and the Jewish stuff and just everything, the Nietzschean, the Kierkegaard. I mean, just it all resonates with me so intensely, and I just feel like this dude is like he could be like one of the closest things that we in our lifetimes experience is what I would call an avatar, and I think that he could be
um,
not even young men. I mean, middle-aged men.
well,
I'm in my mid-40s, and
well, you're
I'm
a young man to me.
he's
But
he's opened up some things to me that it's like, oh, that's where I went wrong. It's just like I've gone wrong in a lot of places, and fortunately, a lot of those wrongs have put me on a good path. There's a lot of rights that are being birthed out of those wrongs, and so lucky for no blessed for that, I guess. But it was just something that was on my heart, that whatever the riff was that I was playing around with at the time, it just, there was this like one hook, there was this one line that was trying to come out, and it kept coming out in different ways, but the words were wrong. It was like the approach was right, and that the melody
Right.
and the attitude was right, but I couldn't find the words, and then all of a sudden it just dawned on me, because I'm always watching JP, and the message that kept coming through was aim up, and which is perfect, because that's basically what he boils down what the Sermon on the Mount was all about, which is about aiming up, using logos, you know, organizing yourself properly to the highest aim, and making that your goal. And it was like, oh, aiming up. And so it was like that was the hook. And so very excited about this song, because we literally wrote it 6 months ago, and from concept to physical tangible product, we're looking at a 6 to 7 month span, with a music video. And in the world of independent music, that's moving fairly quickly.
Yeah.
That's moving fairly quickly, because usually concepts, you'll sit on a concept or a song for years before it even gets thought about being recorded. Sometimes a decade. I've sat on songs for
Well, then with all the planning that we did, things still didn't work out. There's always technical difficulties and time slots. We were hoping to have lots of people on this video and or on the song basically, and things just didn't work out. And I think in all, that's the way it was supposed to be.
Well, because remember the whole point of us doing that and kind of forcing the issue is like, let's really ride that line between chaos and order.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's really implement this. I want to see what it looks like implemented and put into practicality. And
Right.
and that first day in the studio was absolute chaos within the confines of Hallowed Halls, which was the order. And I was trying to play project manager and trying to keep things flowing, trying to make sure that, okay, we're not spending too much time on this. We got,
Right.
and so, having the focus on, hyper focus on the task at hand, but also having the peripheral to know, okay, well, we can only spend X, like, we can't go over a certain amount of time on any one thing because it's going to bleed over into the next musician's time. And so trying to keep track of the hyper-focused object at the same time as the peripheral objects that are, and so
It was a great day.
it went by very fast. But there was things that were unforeseen, which we kind of thought, like, hey, we're definitely playing with this idea of order and chaos. We're going to throw all these people into a studio. And here's the other thing. We never practiced.
Yeah.
We never practiced the song with any of these people. I had the bass player come over a couple times and, play to the recording. And then he had a copy to play with at home. But as the band, we never played the song together once. The drummer, literally, me and the drummer laid the rhythm tracks down. It was on the third, maybe fourth take, but we never played the song before.
I don't even think we played it all the way through together until we were at the studio.
Yeah. And so that was the point, was like, I wanted to see, like, if I get the right people together, can we literally make order out of chaos? And as far as I'm concerned, it worked. It worked. We've got a good song, and it really was. It was something that was on my heart. That was like, JP. He's like going around. Now, granted, he's like selling out theaters and stuff, but people want to hear what he has to say, and it's like, I might not ever get a chance to meet that guy, but I want to give him at least make a personal thank you with his message, with a message that he's reiterated. It wasn't his message. It was technically it's Jesus' message, but reiterating that message to the creative people, that doing creative ventures is hard and scary. And that's exactly why we should be doing it. Because if it's not hard, there's probably not a lot of value there. Only doing hard things is where we find the meaning and the value. And so this is all stuff that I'm just, I'm not trying to be a parrot, but the things that I've gotten from JP have been life-changing, and it's actually helped me reestablish my relationship with my family, with my ex-wife and my kids. My kids don't really like me very much, and so our relationship has been strained for a few years. And so when I can start seeing progress in every aspect of my life, I'm sitting here going, okay, there's something to this guy, because I'm not just listening to him, I'm implementing the ideas that he's giving me. And I'm sorry, but that's a brilliant guy giving away gold for free.
Yeah.
And so it was on my heart to do something nice for this guy that I might not ever meet, but somebody needed to write him a theme song. So I hope that he accepts it as a theme song, because I think that when the dude walks out on stage, he should have a badass theme song to come out to. Like every American hero should have some. and he's an American
background music,
and he's an American. So I can call him an American hero now, because he's living on our side of the fence now. which I'm really happy about. So I guess I'm going to wrap this up and just say cheers, you guys. Happy New Year's. And
Cheers. Whoops. Cheers.
here's to you. Here's to Erin. Thanks for being on the podcast finally. And I'm excited to see what happens next year.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
all right.
Thank you.
Cheers.
See you next time.
Bye.